It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world. Hi. Yeah, and I don't feel fine. It's late Friday night, and I'm making a video. I'm not here to scare or alarm or panic anybody, but I got to tell you, with some 9 days to go until the U.S. presidential elections, I'm really concerned about what's happening in America, and I'd like to talk to you about it tonight. The 2024 U.S. presidential elections changed dramatically in July when Joe Biden stepped down and Kamala Harris assumed the Democratic Party nomination for president. America just seemed energized. Kamala mania swept the country. The Democratic campaign was renewed, was energetic, enthusiastic, and it seemed for a number of weeks like everything was coming together. You know, there was hope. There was true hope out there. And I've watched very carefully what's gone on in the last 3 months. And in my opinion, the Democrats and Kamala Harris have done a tremendous job with their campaign. They've done everything right. They're saying the right things. They're getting the right endorsements. They're doing wonderful. Meanwhile, on the Trump side, his campaign has been filled with confusion and disorganization. Scandal after scandal has been announced almost on a daily basis. And he's become increasingly dark, increasingly negative, and increasingly absurd behavior. But here we are, 9 days until the election, and the polls say that as many Americans support Trump as support Harris. Donald Trump is not fading away. His support is as strong as it has ever been. And there's a good chance that you may wake up on November the 6th with Donald Trump, the president-elect of the United States of America, the most powerful country in the world. By nature, I'm an extremely optimistic person. If I wasn't, I wouldn't have accomplished half of what I did in my life, and I wouldn't have survived the other half. So I always take a positive view on things. But when it comes to the thought of Donald Trump getting a second term as president, I got to tell you, it makes me glad that I'm 70 years old and living in Canada, and maybe I won't have to deal with too much of the madness that may ensue afterwards. I'm not a huge fan of AI, artificial intelligence. There are just way too many YouTube content creators who are using it to write their scripts and in some cases even present their material. But it's a valuable resource, and I use it as a research tool to expand on my topics and get some further points that I may not have considered. So tonight I sat down in front of ChatGPT and asked it a question. I asked, do you have any idea on what kind of reactions or responses from various groups and stakeholders are possible if Donald Trump actually did win a second term as president in the U.S. presidential elections? Let's see what it's got to say. It responded to me. If Donald Trump wins a second term as U.S. president in the 2024 elections, it is likely to provoke a range of responses and reactions from various groups and stakeholders, both within the United States and globally. Here are some possible reactions. Number 1, Trump supporters and the Republican base. Celebration and endorsement. Trump supporters would likely celebrate his victory as a vindication of their beliefs and policy preferences, especially regarding immigration, trade, and foreign policy. It would signal a continuation of his hardline stances on issues such as law and order, deregulation, and economic nationalism. The Republican Party. Establishment Republicans who supported Trump would view it as a reaffirmation of their party's direction, while others within the party who are more skeptical or critical might still adjust their stance to align with the new power dynamics. We saw that happen in 2016 quite a bit with various Republicans. Then it comes down and talks about number 2, Democrats and progressive activists. Protests and legal challenges. Trump's return to power could trigger widespread protests from progressive groups, civil rights activists, and younger voters. Activists who have been vocal against Trump's policies on climate change, social justice, LGBTQ rights, and immigration would likely immobilize to challenge his administration's actions. I find it interesting that they don't mention women and reproductive rights in there. Democratic Party leaders might quickly regroup to strategize legislative and judicial opposition. They may focus on state-level policies, court challenges, or even efforts to reform the electoral process in response to potential changes in federal laws or regulations. It's not bad, you know? One of the nice things about AI is you can then push it. So I said, thank you. Can you expand on point number 2? Democrats and progressive activists and what they might do. And it came back at me. If Donald Trump were to win a second term as U.S. president, Democrats and progressive activists would likely respond with heightened mobilization, legal challenges, and policy strategizing. Here's a detailed list of their potential reactions. Protests and mass mobilization. And this is the one that concerns me. Progressive activists, grassroots organizations, and civil rights groups would likely respond with a resurgence of protests. Movements like Black Lives Matter, Women's March, and environmental advocacy groups such as Sunrise Movement could mobilize against what they see as a return to authoritarian and regressive policies. These groups have been very vocal in criticizing Trump on issues like racial justice, police brutality, LGBTQ rights, and environmental policies. Defending vulnerable groups. Groups advocating for marginalized communities, including immigrants, LGBTQ individuals, and racial minorities, would likely redouble their efforts to counter expected roadblocks of civil rights protections and immigration policies. Activists might organize widespread demonstrations and direct actions to resist Trump's anticipated actions on immigration or social justice issues. So, what does this all mean? If Trump wins, will there be mass civil disobedience? Will there be an uprising of people? Will there be national strikes? This happened in democracies before quite successfully. But there's a problem. In the United States, there is a polarization that's very straightforward and right down the middle. If Trump wins, half the country is outraged. And if Trump loses, half the country is outraged. The other half. So where does this go to? What does it mean? It's pretty serious. Now, there's still a week and a half to the election, and anything can happen. There can be major shifts one way or the other. From my perception, Donald Trump losing doesn't end anything, because he's not going to go away and his supporters are not going to go away. The only way that this can end peacefully is with a total rejection and repudiation of Trump and his following. It has to be a landslide against him. Or on the other hand, a total endorsement in favor of him. Unless the country moves strongly in one direction or another, this gridlock, this deadlock is going to remain. Now, as I said, I'm 70. I haven't got that many years left for me. But I worry about future generations. You know, what are they going to have? What kind of a world are they going to live in? I'm concerned, and I think everybody should be. So take advantage of the next week. Get out there and do what you can. Don't give up. Be optimistic. America's a great country and is well worth doing whatever you can to save it in its way of life. Listen, thanks a lot for taking the time to watch this. I don't mean to be sitting here ragging at you, but you know, I care. Thanks a lot and have a great weekend. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and yeah, give me your comments. I love to read them all. Here's a suggestion of some other videos of mine you may want, and enjoy my content. Thanks a lot. Bye.